will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Live Dreams. It's a pleasure to be here with you every Tuesday. And sometimes we do special events as well. A couple of announcements. I wanted to announce that our new, our new comprehensive SIM compendium, our whole spiritual intelligence mentorship in one, is now open for registration. That last bit that you saw there was the new commercial. You might have seen it on Facebook or Instagram as well. That is our new commercial for our spiritual intelligence mentorship that is starting soon. It starts in mid-May, and you can sign up as it shows here on the ticker below. Go to spiritualintel.com. That's the spiritual intelligence mentorship. There's so much I could tell you about it, but if you're looking to dive deep into dream interpretation, and you want to know how to interpret dreams like Daniel did, like Joseph did, on a governmental level, so that you can stand before kings and queens, commanders, heads of state, presidents, people like that, this is absolutely the course for you. We haven't found any course out there in existence, and we've looked for it multiple times actually, that goes to the depth of what we do. We go through all of the dreams in the Bible. We go through a process of understanding the Joseph method, how to interpret dreams, how to put them in a format that we've modeled after the President's Daily Brief, how to create dossiers for multiple dreams, how to work together in an intelligence analyst team. We even have part of the course that them in that format, and then we even teach you how to brief. So how to do a presentation to, again, a head of Hi, Neil.
Tom, how you doing? You were cutting out there for a little while. Couldn't hear you.
Good. Good.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes it's the Wi-Fi issues, but that have been part of.
Can't hear you, John.
Some amazing things, some harrowing things, and being shot at and almost dying several times, and how God led him into forces, operational and command experience. So it's always a pleasure to have him here in dreams of war, national level dreams. Anyway, can you all hear me?
I got about 2 sentences out of the last 3 minutes. But thank you for the introduction. I'm sure it was awesome, as it usually is. I appreciate you honoring me and having me here to play with you today. As every time that we go through these things, it's amazing some of the dreams that comes out and the themes that show up during the night. So looking forward to tonight and whoever we got coming in.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Well, I was introducing the general, and I said if you haven't seen his Dream Talks episode, go back and watch it. You'll hear a whole lot about who he is and what he does. And sorry for the technical difficulties. We get those sometimes. By the way, if you do have a dream to share, we have Tiffany just posted it in the comments. You can click in. We do have room in the back right now. So feel free to join us and share a short dream, and we'll be happy to get you in. So let's bring Dawn in and hear her dream first.
Hi.
Hi, Dawn. How are you?
I'm blessed. How are you doing?
Good. Good.
Good.
How's your dream?
Okay, I had a dream
John,
April
before
18th.
Before you start,
sorry.
would you like to pray, John?
You know what? We should pray. That's a very good. That's why I have the general here.
Generally speaking.
Father God, we thank you for the opportunity to come before you, to hear from you. We thank you for visions and dreams, for the seer gift, for prophetic words, God, for word of knowledge, word of wisdom. We thank you, Holy Spirit, that you are the great counselor, that you bring with you the gift of revelation, the gift of wisdom. And we ask that you would show us tonight, that even as we listen, God, that you would show us what the dreams mean, that even for the first time, maybe we're hearing a dream and we know immediately what some of the symbols mean, and we can begin to interpret. I pray that everybody in the sound of my voice and everybody that hears this now or later, that you would explode their dream life, that they would have more visions and dreams, more wisdom and knowledge in how to interpret, and that you would strengthen their gifts in the prophetic. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Mhm.
All right. Go ahead, Dawn.
Okay, so I had this dream April 18th. I'm going to do the beginning and then the ending. I was at a gathering and I was being ignored by all. They said they were all leaving to go somewhere else, to someone else's house, to fellowship with them. I kept hearing a voice saying, just go home and go out in the sun because it's nice out. Next thing I knew, I was at the group. I'm just sitting there. Then this man calls me out and says, God says that you are an apostle. And people looked at me like, her? And then I walked over to the fireplace and sat down and just worshiped the Lord. That dream ended and I went right into another dream, and there was a horse who was dehydrated. I brought him in through the backside of an elevator and I hosed him off. Then a baby came in and I hosed her off. Then the door on the right side opened and my dog, who died 4 months ago, was there and he was dehydrated, and I went out and hosed him down, and then I woke up.
Wow. That's an interesting dream. So the first part, what was the setting?
We were in a house, someone's house.
Not your house?
Mm-mm.
Not a house that you recognized?
No.
Not the White House?
I don't know. I didn't really. Honestly, I didn't pay attention to my surroundings.
That's okay. And so there was a group of people, almost like a Bible study?
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody...
Study, prayer.
Right. And somebody said to you or prophesied over you that you were an apostle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who that person was? Did you recognize anybody in the room?
No. I didn't know who he was. It was a man.
Okay. And then you went over and you sat down by the fireplace?
And I worshiped the Lord.
And you worshiped the Lord. Awesome. And then you went into the second dream with the horse and the dog.
Right.
Two
Right.
horses.
The horse, the baby, and the dog.
Okay.
So when you were at the house in the gathering, the people were ignoring you, right?
Yes.
For whatever reason, and they left to go to another person's house, but your admonition from the voice you heard was to go home and go
home and go sunning. I don't believe it was the Lord. It was like to go home and go lay out in the sun instead of going over to the other group.
Right.
But all of a sudden I just showed up at the other group and I was there. And that's when the man came up to me and said that to me. And then I went over to the fireplace. It was strange. It was strange that I took this horse through the back of an elevator.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What do you get, Neil?
It seems like there's a, do you feel like in your real life that there are parts of your church family that ignore you and don't pay attention to the words that you say to them or the advice that you give?
My family. Yeah. Most people. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think this house might have been a house of a relative?
No.
Something, just another group.
Just a group. I don't know who they were. I do a lot of my fellowship on Zoom and webinars and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I live in a very rural area.
Right.
And yeah, my family has never took my advice. Anything, and I know it's the spirit of wisdom speaking to me, and they go and do it. And what I said, what the Lord had revealed to me would happen, happens. And
yeah, I think the first part of this dream is kind of speaking to that. It's just an affirmation of what other people's opinion is of you or are of you, but what you're really called to do. It says the part about people are ignoring you, but the voice says, go out in the sun, just don't even pay attention to them. It's the advice is go out and enjoy my creation, and be with me and just bask in the sun, bask in his glory.
Amen. That's good. I didn't get that from that. Yeah, that's good.
But you find yourself, it's kind of like Philip, finds himself in Azotus. You found yourself in the midst of this group, whether you liked it or not. You're just transported there. And the word that a man, whoever it was, some generic man, calls you and tells you you're an apostle, which might be something you already know or feel in your spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I already know.
Easily.
It was like confirmation to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk to the fireplace. I kind of hear the, day of Pentecost when the tongues of fire appeared on everybody's head and you just worshiped. And I think that's literal. You probably did just worship. Then the dehydrated horse, there's, you can't lead a horse or you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But a salt tablet in his mouth, you can make him thirsty and he'll drink then. And you're the one who provides the water, and I see that as the water of the Holy Spirit, out of your innermost being shall flow the rivers of living water. And it's the horse and the baby horse and the dog who has died already, right?
Yeah, he passed away 4 months ago and he was in my dream.
So it's like it's a threefold anointing. Even the dead will be watered, we are dead in our sins, and the only thing that revives us is to be born again. And so, the water is almost a kind of a foretelling or a symbol of baptism. We don't necessarily need to get dunked. Sometimes you get sprinkled. I think this is the sprinkling. So that's what I got, John.
Interesting. So I missed that first part of the dream when. So what happened before you were in the house?
I was at a gathering and I was being ignored. Then they all decided they were going to leave and go to someone else's house to fellowship with another group. And I was hearing a voice tell me, just go, it's sunny out, just go out and enjoy the sun. And I ended up in the house where they went to fellowship. And that's when a man called me out and said to me, God says you're an apostle. And I just walked over to the fireplace and began to worship him. And then the dream ended and went into this other dream with the horse. And
Now there were two horses in the other dream, right?
No, there was just one horse, a baby, and a dog that passed away 4 months ago.
Okay.
We were in an elevator.
All three of you?
While we were in the elevator first, I took the horse into the elevator from the backside. And a baby came in, and then a door opened on the right-hand side of me, and my dog, who passed away 4 months ago, was standing there. And all of them were dehydrated. So I hosed them down with a hose.
In the elevator?
Hmm?
Okay. Was the elevator going up or down?
It wasn't moving.
Wasn't moving. But you were all in the elevator while you were hosing them down.
The horse and the baby was. The dog was outside the door.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Wow, this is really cool. So the part about being in fellowship and feeling like you were ignored I feel like is the idea of being set apart. Right? And then go bask in the sun is really just an invitation to get closer to God. Go spend time with the sun, understand the worth and the value that you have. And then by no choice of your own, you're back into the second gathering now. And this is where this time they recognize you and they recognize the calling on your life. And so it's like a promotion, because before it was like nobody was paying attention, and now somebody's coming up and calling you out as an apostolic leader. And your response is the same thing that you did at first, which I think is beautiful, is you took the opportunity to get close to the fire representing the altar or the throne room of God. And so you went towards the fire, which also is the place of intimacy. And then suddenly you're in this other place. So first of all, an elevator is the place of promotion. So it's the place of promotion and the place of foundations. You can go up or down. You can get down to the basement and understand the foundation of things, or you can go up high and see a clear view, see a far distance, get to the top, the penthouse suite, things like that. So you're in this elevator with a thirsty horse and a baby that comes in, and then a door on the right opens up, right? So the horse, I heard horse and rider, like the horse and rider thrown into the sea, which is interesting because the apostolic expression of a person on a horse in a time of war is a general. And we have a general here with us interpreting your dream, which I think is just really cool. But it's also the idea of not only were you promoted amongst a gathering of people, but you weren't promoted just to be amongst the people. You were promoted to be able to be out there and do things. Now, exactly what Neil said about the idea of the water and the sprinkling, it reminded me, though not totally, but of Ezekiel 37, the valley of dry bones. Right? Yep. Now, these aren't totally dead. They're just dehydrated. So that's what I kept getting. You a little bit.
Ezekiel 37, that's what I kept getting.
Yeah. Wow. So
I pray that a lot, that scripture.
Well, so the idea of being at the head of an army, as he was in Ezekiel 37, and he literally commanded the army, because he commanded the army to stand up, and then he commanded the breath of God to come into them and to live. And so he was in the general position or the apostolic position as a prophet at the head of the army. That's what was happening, even though the army was long dead and it had been years because they were just bones and they were dry bones. When he shows up, he begins to command them. So he's in a position of command, which is apostolic authority, which is what you were. You were in a dry, barren place where nobody knew you or nobody acknowledged you. You went and you spent time with the Lord, right? Kind of basked in the sun, was like, I'm just going to spend time with God. And the next thing you know, you're back in a community of people and they recognize who you are. And then you go towards the fire. Well, when you spend time in the sun or in the fire, what happens? You need refreshing and you get thirsty. And so in the next scene, you have a horse, which I believe represents your war horse. And you have a baby that's there, which represents the idea of something that's been birthed. It's not something you're birthing. It's something that already exists. It's something that's been birthed, but is new, like an apostolic anointing on your life, where it's not being birthed. You already have it, but it's learning to walk into that.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
And then he's going to send somebody at your right hand on your right side that's going to be a friend to you, that is going to come from nowhere, that is somebody that maybe you don't expect, which is like the dog that has passed away, and you're like, ah, my dog, a friendly face. This is so good to see him, and you're comforted, and you're watering the things that have been dead in your life, whether it was a past friendship or relationship. And I feel like there's been a time in your life, whether it was family, business, or whatever, where you were in charge and you were on an elevated position, which represents the horse. But again, it's kind of been a while, just like the dog that's passed away. And so you're watering those two things, because in this season, you're going to have friends around you that maybe you haven't spent time with. And you're also going to be in that elevated position again, which represents your apostolic authority.
Amen.
And
Amen.
so here's the actionable intelligence. It's two things. One, recognize the calling, recognize this dream as a calling out of your destiny, and just receive it. Don't make God tell you 5 or 6 times that you're an apostle. Just say, okay, I'm a leader of people and I'll do that. And look for opportunities to lead. Number one. Number two, begin to speak life study the heck out of Ezekiel 37 and speak life to anything around you that's dead or dying, or even
I even do that to trees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and do that to people, and do that to situations, and do that because again, if you have an apostolic authority, what you say matters. So, wow, what a great dream.
Well, thank you. God, I really appreciate you so much that you do this. Seriously, I do appreciate you that you do this. I hope you know you're appreciated by many in the body that you do this.
Oh, thank you. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Such a great dream, Dawn. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Bye, General.
Bye-bye. Wow.
Wow.
That was a good dream.
Yeah. Somebody was asking about the elevator. I had a similar dream. It had 3 horses in it, and there was an elevator involved in it. It was kind of interesting. It was, at the time, I thought it was kind of like the JV dream of the 3 horses of the apocalypse, because there was a red one, a tan one, and a kind of a grayish one, and the one that was missing was the black one.
Wow.
Which was kind of interesting. You know, the black one is the symbol. That's the one that brought famine to the earth, which is kind of where we may be right now. I'm not sure, but it seemed to be. Once I realized that, I was like, oh, maybe the reason that there's only 3 is because one's out working.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. All right, KJ.
KJ.
Hi. Hi.
We got Florida, Texas, and Alaska, the biggest states, or some of them.
We just need somebody to call in from the other corner.
There you
or
go.
Hawaii, I guess.
Maryland, something.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right, that's your dream.
this is a fun dream. I woke up yesterday with it, and in the dream, I'm on a fairly new sidewalk. It's not an old sidewalk, and it's a really sunny, nice day, and I have a shopping cart in my hand or in my hands, and Lou Engel's right behind me with a shopping cart, and we're running down the sidewalk, and he's running behind me, and I was like, and we were racing, but he was behind me, and I was like, I need to move over because Lou goes faster than me. Stream, so Lou goes faster than me, and it was all in fun and joyful, but I felt like, move over so he can go by. It was an honor thing too, but fun. And then the next part of the dream, Lou and I were walking, and he had his arm around me, I had my arm around him, just friendly, and we were having a conversation. I don't remember what we were conversing about, but it was, that was a dream.
So where were you running to? Do you know?
No idea. We were just racing, with these shopping carts, and I'm not sure where we were racing to, or.
So shopping carts with wheels, or shopping carts like you hold in your hand?
With wheels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were they empty?
Yeah, they were empty, just like running with them.
This is a fun one.
Yes.
You want to take it?
Yeah, until I get stuck. The new sidewalk, it's a new path that you're going to take. It's not one that you've ever been on before. This is a new direction. And you're going to be followed by somebody who is like a Lou Angle, not necessarily Lou, but somebody who's like him, who's an encourager, who's a prophet. I don't know what else he is. I'm not real familiar with Lou, but
Big time national intercessor.
okay. So you have the intercessor at your back. He's got your back, which is pretty important in the work that you do or are going to do. The shopping carts, I think, kind of indicate, because they're empty, is they're yet to be filled. There's some stuff that's going to get stuck in there that you're going to need on your way, on your path, but it's all going to be fun. And you guys are going to be running buddies, I think, together. You respect him as an equal, and that's why you move over, to let him either alongside you or by you. And he is the one who's going to be your helper. And that's why you're having this conversation. You walk arm in arm. It's a sign of intimacy that, as a brother and sister, conversing about probably things that he's been interceding for you on. So I don't know, that's kind of what I got out of that.
So what's the actionable intel?
Actionable intel. Be open to a new path that God's going to lead you on. It's going to be different from anything that you've ever seen before. So if it's something it seems like it's going to be something that's going to be fun no matter what. The whole, it's a sunny day, bright sunny day. This is going to be a great time for you. And look for the helpmeet, your intercessor, because he's going to be right behind you, and he's the one who's going to be helping out. I don't know if you have an intercessor that you work with on a regular basis, but it seems like you've known Lou for a while, haven't you?
I not like.
You've never met him before?
Oh yeah, I've met him.
Okay, so it's going to be somebody that
he's closer to friends of ours, and
okay.
We've all had dinner together, but I don't really. Yeah.
It's not going to be a complete stranger, whoever this intercessor is. So look for the intercessor, look for the path.
Wow. Thank
Awesome.
you. Wow.
Yeah, and two little tidbits that I might add too is Lou is considered by most to be a general. So there's going to be generals that you're going to run with, people of importance, people that other people know in the body of Christ, particularly leaders. He represents intercessors, but he also represents a very strong leadership, governmental, national level, like prayer anointing. And also look for things to put in the cart. God has more for you to carry, which means more gifts, more mantles, things like that, more tools. So, yeah.
My thought in the dream was, I need to move over because Lou runs faster than I do. And I didn't realize this when I had the dream. He just finished a 40-day call fast on Saturday. Yeah. So I wondered about that part of the dream.
Well, he's no longer going fast. He's not fasting anymore. So he's going at the speed where he can walk with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he didn't pass you.
Wow. Okay.
The fast is over. Which that's an interesting detail.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Wow. Thank you.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Right. Great
Thank
training.
you.
Sharon.
We'll see you later.
Flowers.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I had the privilege of being a guest as part of somebody else's mentorship group the other night. And I think we might have some people from there. So, Kelsey, are you ready?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. The main reason I called, well, because of last night, it was awesome. But my husband doesn't normally have dreams. I always do. Okay. And last night after we had our thing with Nicole, I was like, babe, I'm going to pray for you tonight. And God's going to give you a dream about your life and your career. And guess what? He called me at work today and he's like, I had the most vivid dream. And so And so I'm calling on his behalf because he's still at work. So my notes are they're kind of scrappy, but I'll do my best. So he was in in his dream, he was in a small old Volkswagen Bug.
Okay.
And it was really kind of rusty on the outside, I guess, kind of old. And as he was driving, he could look over the edge and see a drop off, but it wasn't like a really far drop. It was just like a little drop. And he saw a train down there and a couple other, I think, buildings. But sorry, I have my baby too. But anyway, so he saw there was like a small train, like a kid's toy kind of train, just like a single train, he said. And somehow he ended up crashing, but he was okay. He got out of the car. He said there was 2 men. He started talking to one of the men, but right when he opened his mouth, his words became super slurred. And so it was like slow motion. And all of a sudden he like passed out, and he woke up, and he was in the train halfway in the window with his body halfway out. And he was teetering inside the train. And he saw like these bubbles kept popping up that said hate, and it would go away, hate, hate. And then it would say love, like it actually said love in the train. But then he would keep seeing these, like, I don't know, he explained it was like a bubble, kind of like it would pop open and say hate, hate. And then all of a sudden he got rescued from a helicopter. It rescued him out of there. And he was way up high where he could look down and see the train. And it was actually like, had these like evil teeth and all this stuff. Owen, I'm on the laptop. Owen, I'm on the laptop. Anyways, so that was the end of the dream. Just once. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Like a demonic Thomas the Tank Engine. That's
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it was just like he just explained that it was like it had really terrible looking teeth and it was really evil. So.
And then he got rescued by a helicopter.
Yep.
Wow. So the train was below him off of the cliff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then he crashed. Did he crash over the cliff, or he wasn't sure?
He like crashed down the cliff.
Yeah.
But not
crashed down the cliff. Was talking.
Yeah.
Right. Talking to 2 guys, slurred speech, falls asleep or passes out, wakes up half in, half out of the train.
He
the
was
love, hate thing.
A lot. Teetering.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So he's entering a place of instability, but God is giving you a warning so you'll know in advance. So this is really important. And by the way, obviously this is recorded so he can listen to the whole thing later. We'll also cut it up and we can send it. If you send us your email, we'll cut it up and we can send you just your dream directly so you can have it. Super, super cool dream. So the idea of a Volkswagen, what does he do for a career right now?
He is a store manager, and he's been working really hard the last 4 months to promote, but nothing's really, it's been kind of like they tell you and then you don't,
yeah,
hasn't happened yet. So.
Yeah.
He's also in the Air National Guard. So
the Air National Guard. Interesting. So the idea of a kind of a rusted out Volkswagen is the idea of it's like a college car. It's kind of the beater mobile that you get initially, and you kind of keep it as long as you can. And, as you're working in your career and progressing and starting a family and all of that, eventually you want to upgrade to the Lexus SUV or something. But so this is the idea of he's feeling the need to have a better vehicle, but where he's at is where he's at. So that's what the car represented. It's his vehicle, the destiny. It's his current position. Mm-hmm. So below, he sees the train. It's just a single engine, which reminds me of 2 things: the Thomas the Tank Engine and the little engine that could, right?
Yeah.
Because you said it's like a toy train. And so he saw that below him. And so he was just like, wow, okay, so he's on this cliff. And the idea of being on a cliff is being in a place that you're not really sure you want to be there, especially if you're driving. It's like, oh, this is kind of unsafe. I'm not sure, I hope it comes out okay. And it's the idea of the insecurity that he's probably feeling in his career, wanting to promote. It hasn't happened yet. Is this really what I want to do? Should I bail now? What's happening? And then there's a crash, which is the idea of he's ejected off that path and out of the car by no fault of his own. So if that happens, don't freak out. Just know that God is saying this is what's going on in the dream. Now, when he crashes downward, which feels like a demotion. It could feel like being laid off. It could even feel like being fired. And it could be like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And then the idea of his slurring the speech, I heard he was under the influence. Now, under the influence, I believe he was under the influence of the Holy Spirit, which is God letting you know that this was God designed for this to happen, to move him to a different position. Okay. But there's a time in transition where he's literally in transition. He's half in the train, he's half out of the train. There's the whole love and the hate thing. So there's like this juxtaposition of several different ideas. And it's the idea of he's trying to figure out, what do I do? Where do I go? What's next? Hi, buddy. He's cute. So he's trying to figure out what's going to happen. And he's half in and half out of the train. So he hasn't fully made the decision. What's coming next hasn't fully manifested, but he's on a very straight and rigid path. The thing about being on a train is it's not like a road where you can steer and go wherever you want. Your course is fixed. And so his course is fixed and he's not sure this is the course he wants to be on. So he's literally half in and half out, right? But he sees that this is a train of love, but then he sees these bubbles of hate. So it's the idea that things are not what they say. It's supposed to be a love train, but the train kind of has this evil scowl. It has this hate bubbling up. The atmosphere isn't really what he wants to be in. And then what happens is he gets rescued by a helicopter, which could represent a full-time position in the Air Force. It could also represent just simply promotion. The fact that he's in the Air Force and he gets rescued by a helicopter, I think is super interesting.
Can I say one thing really quick?
Sure. Yeah.
So he's actually out of the Air Force next year, but he would have been gone deployed recently, but that didn't happen. And so he's supposed to be getting out this next year, which is a big deal to him. And he did not get vaccinated. So he's also waiting on to know what they're doing with him the next few months too.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So there is a lot of uncertainty in his kind of career and what's happening. So he's trying to get promoted at the job that he's at the store. And then he's got the whole thing with the Air Force going on. And yeah, so the idea of being rescued by a helicopter is the idea of being promoted. You're off the cliff. You're out of the old car. You're out of the half in, half out of the train with the hate bubbles and, kind of the demonic Thomas the Tank Engine. And you're being transported to a whole new place, but it's all upward. So it might be something completely different than anything that he's involved in right now, but it's definitely going to be a promotion. And I feel like it's going to be a promotion designed for him because there's a difference between a helicopter, which is also a rescue vehicle, and like being on a jetliner or a plane, So I feel like God is sending help, and no matter what happens in the next, I feel like 3 or 4 months, just know that God gave you this dream in advance to let you know how the story ends. So God can do this, and he does this a lot of times. So give us things to let us know in advance of something that's going to happen. So we know kind of where it's going. And we know, more importantly, that he's with us the whole way. The crash wasn't his fault. He was under the influence of the Holy Spirit. He passed out, which was no fault of his own. So those were 3 different things that had really nothing to do with him that ended him up in this situation he was half in and half out of. And then ultimately he ends up being rescued. And it wasn't even, he obviously didn't call for a helicopter while you're stuck half in and half out of the train. So even the rescue was sent by an act of God.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting. 2 comments on the beginning and the end. The vehicle, the 2 vehicles, the bug and the Hilo. The small bug that's rusty. The Volkswagen was the people's car, and it's just as John was saying, it's just a regular thing, but it's a bug. It's indicative of what this is, a vehicle for destiny, and there's just something that's bugging about the path he's on. The fact that it's rusty, it's like, this is getting really old. Something needs to change. And so as it goes on, it does change. And at the very end, when the Hilo rescues him, the helicopter is a vertical elevator. It's a 3D elevator. The last dreamer had a dream of a horse in an elevator. It's, as John said, it's a vehicle for promotion. And so things are going to get better. Even though it seems kind of nasty between now and then, it's all getting better. So chin up, it's getting better.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Kelsey.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
the best to you and your husband.
Thanks,
you.
Kelsey.
All right.
Another
That was
elevator.
awesome.
Interesting.
Elevator, helicopters, trains. That was like trains, planes, and automobiles.
Trains, planes, and automobiles.
Right?
All in
All
one
right.
dream.
Yeah, that was really cool. Carissa.
Hey, John. Hey, Neil.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you guys too. I've missed you a
Good to see
lot. Yeah, I'm hanging in there. I actually have a dream from my sister, and she doesn't normally share her dreams with me, so I got her permission to share this because it really got my attention. I think it got hers too, but she's not sure what she thinks about dreams yet. So I wanted to go ahead and share this dream. I guess I'm going to be adding to your vehicles because I've got 2 vehicles in this one. So she and I were in a dream together. So this is her dream, and I was in a dream with her. We were together in our neighbor's backyard. There seemed to be a bunch of woods crowding behind us. And there's some people from the church that we grew up in who were there that we didn't know very well, but they were around. In particular, there's one person's name. I don't know if I need to mention it or not, but that was one fact. And then Tiffany was looking up at the sky, and she saw what looked like a flying bicycle. She pointed it out to me and said, "Look, it's the Spirit Flyer." But when the bike got closer, she could see that it was more like a 3-wheeled motorcycle with a burly man riding on it. He seemed up to no good, and suddenly there were many other men on the same motorcycles descending all over the place from the sky, but not directly next to us. The main guy landed in front of us, and she knew he was about to do something bad, but all the other people around didn't seem to notice, and they weren't concerned. Everyone seemed to be kind of taken up by the shiny appearance of the tent that he had set up. Then he kidnapped my sister. Her name is Tiffany. He kidnapped her, and just as he was taking her away, she managed to slip me 2 pieces of paper that each had a number on them. One was the number 8, and the other was the number 10. She somehow knew that these were vital and were going to save me. That was the end of the dream.
Wow. Kidnapping. That sounds like a snatch and grab, Neil.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you wanna start that one?
Okay, so just to recap, you and your sister Tiffany are in the backyard of a neighbor. So it's not your house, it's somebody else's.
Right.
And there's a set of woods that's crowding in behind you in the back of it.
Yes.
And there are some church people there that you recognize, and one person whose name you know, but you're not going to reveal. Was it significant?
Only if you kind of, look up the meanings of names. Like I looked up his first name means free man and his last name means traitor. So sometimes I look at that. I'm not sure.
I heard Freemason. Okay.
Okay.
So Tiffany looks up in the sky and sees a flying bicycle. And as she descends a little bit, she gets a clearer picture of it. And it's really a 3-wheeled motorcycle with a big burly guy on it. And there are more that were descending.
Yeah, but the first thing she said before she saw it was, "Look, it's the Spirit Flyer."
Oh, the Spirit Flyer.
And then she realized it was this motorcycle. And there was like a whole crowd of these things descending.
Did the term Spirit Flyer mean something to you?
There was a series of books that we read when we were younger that were about this boy on this bicycle, and he would fly through the sky on it. And they were a Christian, like young juvenile fiction series, but they actually were very much about spiritual warfare, and they were pretty creepy to the point that I was a little bit traumatized by them, and I wasn't so sure what I thought about these books, honestly. So that's immediately what I thought of.
Okay. So the Spirit Flyer turns into a 3-wheeled motorcycle with a big burly guy on it.
Mm-hmm.
And more of his friends were descending out of the sky.
Yeah, almost kind of like they were just taking over, but the main guy was the one that was interacting with us.
Yeah. And then he set up a nice shiny tent that everybody was paying attention to. And then he kidnapped your sister. She handed you 2 pieces of paper, one with number 8 on it, and the other with the number 10, and said it was vital to her rescue or recovery.
To my rescue. Like those were going to save me somehow.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have a thought about the numbers, but I'll let you decide whether you want that or not.
Sure.
I'm the oldest of 8 kids, and there's 10 people in my family.
So you and the sister, it's a familial thing in the backyard of a neighbor. It's kind of this doesn't have to do with your family particularly yet. Maybe at the end it will, but you're in somebody else's place of living, and the backyard is often a view of the past. So you're looking at something that happened in the past, perhaps, that needs to be dealt with. I see the woods crowding around. It's the cloud of witnesses that are converging around you, and that kind of goes along with the church people. It can be a fellowship, but the fellowship is called koinonia, but you can develop koinonitis, where it's a severe inflammation of your koinonia, and it just feels like it's crushing you. And sometimes church people are like that. They're really helpful at times, but then it gets to a point where it's just like, back off. So as you're in the backyard, Tiffany looks up and she sees a flying bicycle, and you kind of explained what you thought. I kind of saw the remember Phone Home E.T.
Yes.
flying through the air on his bicycle, or riding the bicycle with the little boy. That's kind of what I thought of. But this whole piece that's in the sky is about the principalities and powers enthroned in high places. This is spiritual warfare, and the big burly guy on the motorcycle just kind of brings that to light. It's a big principality that's coming down, and it's not just him. It's his demon horde is coming down with him, as if they're descending out of the sky onto the ground. And the shiny tent, that's just a distraction. Satan can disguise himself as an angel of light, and that's kind of what this is. It's just he sets up something that diverts everybody's attention away from what he's really doing, and that's kidnapping your sister. Yeah. So I don't know if your sister got involved with somebody. Just think of in the past, and maybe she was involved with somebody, or somebody came into her life that was trying to lead her astray or take her in a direction that she just wasn't supposed to be going. But if your number decode is correct, then it's the family that's going to be the one to bring her back. Somebody like you and the rest of your family, that it's going to help her pull her back from whoever big burly guy is, whatever that guy represents, whatever either person or idea or thought that's been planted in her head that is not supposed to be there. Did she actually go into the shiny tent by any chance?
Not that she told me. No, it was just kind of in the background, like nobody was paying attention to our danger.
Okay. So I think the actionable intelligence on this is, try to think of, have her search her soul, her background, and see if anything came up where she was tempted or led in something that wasn't supposed to be there and felt like, she was kidnapped. The spiritual warfare piece is read Ephesians 6 and put on the gospel armor every single day. And, we are called to fight principalities and powers and the demons that are in our lives and harassing us, not necessarily embodied in us, but we're certainly harassed by them on a daily basis. And, work with your family to try to help her in this time. I mean, she's obviously in a position where she feels kidnapped and isolated, perhaps. And, family comfort and family help will bring her out of that. So that's what I got, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I also feel like there's a piece that you have, and it's part of your position in the family. If there's 10 people in your family, you're the 8th child, but you're number 10 in the family. So what position is she?
I'm actually number 1, and she's number 2.
Oh, you're the oldest?
I'm the oldest. She's the second oldest out of the kids.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So who's the youngest and the third youngest?
The youngest is my brother Michael, and the third youngest is my brother with special needs who still lives with my parents. He has seizures. Nathan.
What's his name?
Nathan.
I was going to say Gabriel.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. So Michael, which is the archangel of war, and Nathan was the prophet that confronted David.
Yep.
And so I feel like it's what she's, a lot of people are saying, like the Johnny Cash Ghost Rider song, Ghost Riders in the Sky. I saw that. I think it's Ghost Rider, that Nicolas Cage movie where he rides that, that flaming motorcycle, and he's like the ambassador of hell, and he's trying to kill enough people and do enough good so he can get into heaven. And So that's what I was thinking of, which is interesting that a lot of people felt that same thing too.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's something related to both the names of your two brothers, but also them themselves that can help rescue your sister.
Mm.
You know, and whether it's something that needs to be fixed in their relationship, possibly, or it's her spending time with them. I know that, you know, families that have special needs children, you know, they tend to rally around the you know, the gifted child, and they tend to be like the spotlight of love in the family a lot of times, because they just love unconditionally and they can sense things that other people are, you know, not privy to feeling. And so I feel like she really needs to not be in that place of isolation, but spend time with them. And I also do feel like you have a piece in this, which, you know, if anybody in your family probably knows how to do spiritual warfare, I got to imagine it's you.
Might be. Yeah, probably. And Michael lives in DC and she lives in DC. So they're the only two kids that are down in the same city together, not living in the same place. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm across the country from them right now.
Does Nathan dream?
Nathan is nonverbal, so I don't know, but I pray that he does, because he has the sweetest spirit about him, but he's not able to communicate with us. And I grew up taking care of him since I was 11, so he's really special to me.
Wow.
Wow.
And never underestimate what those kids can do.
Mm-hmm.
They can set the world on fire, and most people won't even recognize it.
I agree. I agree so much.
Wow. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. It's good to see you again.
You too. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you guys so much.
Take care. Bye-bye. Wow.
Yeah, good seeing her again. I haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. All right. Let's go with Poison Allen.
Hello.
Hi there.
You go by Poison?
I do.
Okay. Not Poisson.
Nope.
Different spelling. Okay.
I was named after the rock band.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew it had to be like a throwback to the music era.
Yeah. Okay, so I had this dream the other day. My sister and I, we were at an airport, and there were tons of people there. We were just walking, and then out of nowhere, she was gone. And it was like I was lost. Like I couldn't figure out where I was, where she was. So I just kept walking through the airport, and then I walked out these back doors. I was with my sister.
Your sister, okay.
Yeah. Your sister's name?
Raven.
Oh yeah, Raven.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was with Raven. So we walk out of the airport. Well, I walk out of the airport in the back. And when I walk out the back, it's like I'm in the Midwest area. Like it's all desert land. And I start walking, and it gets dark. And so I start panicking, like I'm afraid. And I'm nervous because I don't know where I'm at, and it's dark, and I'm afraid of the dark. And so I just keep walking, and then I see these lights coming towards me. So I know that I'm getting close to a road. So I start running down this hill with my phone in my hand, and I have my flashlight on, and I'm waving my flashlight at the vehicles that are coming by until I get down to the very edge of the road. And once I get to the edge of the road, the semi with no trailer on the back slows down, and he kind of comes to a stop. And I ask him if he can give me a ride, and he starts going, like, he starts waving his hands. He's like, no, like, I don't do that. Like, I can't give you a ride. So then he takes off, and then there's a blue, like 1970s, maybe 1960s style muscle car. And it pulls up, and there's 3 men in the car, and they all have like really short, dark hair, kind of scruffy. There's 2 men in the front seat and 1 man in the back seat. And I asked them if they can give me a ride. And so the driver opens up his door. It's a 2-door car. He opens it up, and he pushes his seat forward so I could get in. So I get in, And once I get in, probably not even a minute later, we drive past a gas station, and the gas station is really busy. And I had this thought in my head, if I would have just kept walking, I could have made it to the gas station. I had this really bad feeling that I was not in good company. So we kept driving, and then we got to the destination, and it was like an old building that was situated in between two power plants. And on this old building, you could tell that it was old and run down because there was a graphic, like a clown, and it looked like a 1970s style art. And then it said children's bowling on the side. And as soon as we park right in front of it, they get out of the car, and I jump out of the car and I start booking it to the road. And there's vehicles coming, and I'm screaming for help. Like, I'm asking them to help me, and they just keep staring at me. The guys come running after me. They grab me. They start pulling me back. They tell the cars to keep going, that I'm their crazy sister. And then they pull me inside. Time moves forward because all of a sudden I am with my sister again, as if I had escaped. And I told her everything that had happened, and I told her that I was able to escape. And Raven said to me, and then I told her, I said, they've got children locked up in this place. And my sister said to me, she said, you need to go back and you need to rescue those children. And I said, okay. So I went back and I apologized to the guy. I told him I was sorry for leaving, that I made a mistake, that I wanted to come back. And he said, okay, well, if you come back, then I need you to do a job for me. And I knew what he was talking about. These people were like traffickers. Okay. So I knew that he was wanting me to go do something, but in a very big place. So I asked him, I said, what do you want me to do? And he said, I want you to go to the Creek Church. And I was like, the Creek Church? I said, okay. I said, but look at what I'm wearing. And I was wearing like a lace cardigan with a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. And I was very dirty. Like, I had dirt all over my clothes, all over my skin. And I said, look at what I'm wearing. I was like, I can't go to the Creek Church. I was like, next Sunday is Easter Sunday. I was like, I can't go there looking like this. And I said, I need to buy a dress. So he looked behind him, and the other two guys were arguing about something. And then he reached up on the shelf, grabbed $100 bill, handed it to me. He said, go buy a dress, then go to the Creek Church. And I said, okay. And I walked right out, and then I woke up.
Do you know where the place was?
The place that said children's bowling?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Do you know what town you were in? Do you recognize any landmarks, the gas station, the road, anything?
Nothing. It looked like I was in a totally new place, a place that I've never been, a place that I've never seen before. The only thing that was familiar to me was my sister and the Creek Church. There's actually a church right next to our church called the Creek Church.
Is it named after the Indians, or is it a creek, a body of water that runs by it?
I'm not sure. It's like, it's not like a super huge church, but they've got like 3 or 4 campuses in Kentucky. So, and they're more modern.
Okay. So is that where you attend, or you've just been there?
No, that church is actually, to get to my church, you have to go down the road that church is setting on. So whenever I go down that road, I always see that church, and then I take a right and I go to my church.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it's close by.
Mm-hmm. Wow. What do you got, Neil?
Well, the first thing I heard before you even said it was human trafficking. It's interesting that your sister's name is Raven and you're at an airport. She could have flown anyway without an airplane. Yeah. So you're at an airport, which is a place of departure. It's a temporary place where you wait to go on a fairly large vehicle of destiny that takes you really far, but you're walking. So you're moving under your own power. Then your sister disappears. I think this is part where did you find out that she was actually abducted later on when you link up with her? You don't
No.
find out the reason why she disappeared?
Nope.
Okay. I have a feeling it might have something to do with that, but since it doesn't say, the fact that she disappeared is curious. It kind of sets up the stuff that goes on later on. So you walk out the back of the airport, right? So you're not going out the front where people normally exit. It's out the back. It's a place it's kind of the sneaky way to leave. And so you find yourself in a desert place, a dark desert place, kind of like Hotel California almost.
Yeah.
And you're in a place that you don't recognize. It's out in the middle of basically it's middle USA in the middle of nowhere, and it's dark, and you're in a state that you shouldn't be in. I don't mean, Missouri. I mean, you're panicking, you're anxious. The Lord says, be anxious for nothing, but you are. Like it or not, you are. So you're walking along and you see lights coming towards you. So it's like help might be on the way. Move towards the light. And it appears at first light that these people can help you. So you get down to the bottom of the hill and you're waving for a semi truck. It stops. At least it stops. But when you ask him for a ride, he says, no way. So this guy is of no help to you, even though he probably could have been a big help, big truck, big help, maybe. And he leaves. And so you're seeing other cars coming by, but the one car that stops is I love your description of the car, the blue muscle car. Blue and black muscle cars are really big in some of the dreams that we have, like in the 1970s, Hemi or just a giant V8. But even though it's a big car and it's beautiful, it's not what it seems. It's kind of like the bright and shiny object in the last dream. Seems like the guys are going to be helpful, but they're kind of nefarious. And so the two guys in the front are the driver and the passenger, but the guy in the back is kind of your bodyguard when you get in. And you don't have a good feeling of it, and rightfully so, because these guys are really not what they seem. They're human traffickers. Yeah. And you are, at this point, one of their prey. And unfortunately, you go past the gas station, a place of filling, where you could have gone yourself if you had just walked. So the discernment there, you have the discernment only in retrospect. You knew that you should have not taken a ride with these guys because they're going to take you for a ride. And so you stop at a old building between two power plants. That's an interesting symbol. You look for the anomalies, and that's just kind of bizarre because you generally don't have two power plants in the same place.
Yeah.
It's one. To have two is kind of redundant. So the question is, what is it powering? But the clown graphic on the children's bowling building is clearly a symbol for pedophilia. Both the clown and children don't generally bowl by themselves. They don't have it. It's an adult game. Let's face it. This is a game that adults play with children.
Yeah.
And it's not a good game. So they start to grab you and pull you inside. And they said, you're trying to escape and nobody around you is helping you. And this is kind of what pedophilia and human trafficking is in the United States. It happens right in front of us. People see it. They see the signs of it, but they choose to ignore it and don't do anything. Even though somebody's screaming, help me, help me, help me. Your handler says, she's my crazy sister, just walk the other way. And they do. Yeah. Nobody stops to help you. So you eventually somehow escape, or you just end up with your sister as if you had escaped.
Yeah.
And she said, is she the one who says you got to go back and save the children?
Yes.
I think this is kind of one of your destiny callings. I don't know what you're feeling and what you think God should have you do, but I think this is part of your destiny, is to work in the human trafficking field. I don't know what part of it, rescuing children, which there are a bunch of people that obviously do that, but there's some in the Christian world, and John can talk about one of the guys later on. And he needs to do a job for you. But where he wants you to go is kind of curious. He wants you to go to a church.
Yeah.
You know, people are being snatched from our churches more than people will ever really care to admit. There are people within the churches who are doing pretty nefarious things with kids, and God's gonna judge them. God's gonna bring them to justice at some point. But I think you're gonna have a play in that if you choose to do that. And whenever God calls us to do stuff, you have a choice. You can either choose to go with the calling or not. I would suggest you do, because I think you have a heart. You probably have a heart for this. He didn't give you this dream for no reason. And, you got to ask yourself, why did God give me this dream? And I think he's giving it to you because he wants you to do something. And I think he wants you to do something in the field of human trafficking. And so you go undercover, basically, literally under a different dress. You're no longer, you buy a new dress and you're under a different cover. So in essence, kind of like a double agent. You're going in as if you're working for the bad guy, but you're really doing it a good thing in the church. You're exposing it.
Yeah.
So, so that's what I got out of this one. That's a cool dream. John, what did you get?
Well, I really thought it was interesting how your sister disappeared and then you found yourself in this place and then you're suddenly back together. It reminds me of a friend of mine who also works in spiritual intelligence, and he had a story about a lady who had a dream that she just suddenly ends up in like the back of a semi and she's bound, and she realizes as she looks around that she's being trafficked. And so in the dream, she feels her cell phone in her back pocket, pulls it out, and drops a pin as to her location. And the guy walking back and forth with like the AK-47 sees it and comes over and takes the butt of the gun and smashes it into her nose. And right then she wakes up. Well, the dream was so vivid, and her cell phone is on the nightstand next to her. She reaches over, she grabs the cell phone, she touches it to turn it on, and it's open in maps, and there's a pin that she had dropped. And so it's the idea of, did she get translated, transported? What happened? I think it's one of those mysteries of God, but that was one of the reasons why I was asking you if you recognize the place, because I've had people talk about human trafficking dreams, and then they realize they know what street, they know what building, they know the address, they know that there's never anybody at the building during the time of day doing business. And sometimes God is actually revealing places where human trafficking is happening.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to put anything on this church that you mentioned. But I think it's interesting that in the dream, he's showing you from the side of the traffickers that they want to send somebody that's not part of their ring, basically a victim, into another place to hunt for, more victims of human trafficking. And that can be spiritual, it can be figurative, it can also be literal. I do agree with what Neil is saying. First of all, I used to work at power plants. So the idea of two power plants next to each other, you're right, it's very rare that happens. But what that means is you're in a power position, you're in a powerful place, And so, the idea that you escape with no power of your own is almost like your sister disappearing. It's like you have a supernatural ability to be cloaked and to move in and out of these situations safely.
Wow.
The decision that you make, like to go back, is super interesting because it shows the idea of the courage that you have, also the understanding of the calling and the destiny, and the idea of the protection that that you carry. Dreams a lot of times are like a sticky note as part of an ongoing conversation. So I would look for other dreams. First of all, if you're not writing your dreams down, write them all down. Okay, good. Look for other dreams that have this theme about rescuing people, about disappearing, about being kidnapped, about being in strange places, and even certain locations, and see if God speaks to you now, or if God speaks to you more, or if he speaks to you more figuratively. and even look at small bodies of running water that would represent like a creek, and see if that location or that wording comes up in other dreams. This is the benefit of having a dream journal. Like I have my dream journal on my phone. I can literally search in notes for the word kidnap or creek or human trafficking or power. And I can find anything that has to do with that readily and be like, oh yeah, I got 5 dreams about this. This is crazy.
That's good.
So yeah, you definitely have, you're at a powerful position. You're protected. You have a call of God on your life, and you're fearless. So part of this is an identity and destiny dream. But it's also, I think it could be a level of commissioning for you if that resonates.
Yeah. I actually feel I have, within the last actually couple of years, I have wanted to get affiliated with some of the organizations in our area that actually handle those kinds of situations, and they help women who have been trafficked and children who have been trafficked. So I've been getting connected with them. It's just not been like something that's on my like top priority list, just because I stay busy with a lot of different things. But that's a huge passion of mine. So I feel like you guys hit the nail on the head.
I had a kind of a word of caution, maybe, since the church is specifically named the Creek Church. I put this delicately. Pray for discernment as to how to deal with that church. Consider who the leadership is, and maybe they may be involved in something that's more than church. And so I would caution going and talking to them directly.
Okay.
Pray for discernment for that, as to whether you should or should not, whether the Lord wants you to actually confront them that this is a place of danger, or if they're part of it, then it could put you in a slightly different position. But you're fearless, so God's going to.
That's what the dream showed too. You went back undercover.
Yeah.
And you went back like with their belief system, like, oh well, hey, I just, I don't know, blah blah blah, and so you were pretending that you were on their side, So, I'm not saying that this church may not be literal,
right?
But and so this is no condemnation on this church or anybody that goes there. But if there is a church that you feel like God has highlighted, and it doesn't go away, go join the nursery team, work in the kids ministry, and
keep your eyes open.
See what happens. Only if you feel led to. But caution, and it already shows in the dream that harmless as a dove and wise as a serpent.
That's good. Thank you,
and
guys.
Fierce for bravery for days. So
yeah,
good deal.
Go Poison.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Poison.
Yep. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care.
You too.
Wow.
No, that was really cool.
Yeah, she's got a special calling on her life.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, Brooke. Let's have Brooke join us here.
Hi.
Hey, Brooke.
How are you?
Good. Okay, so I was on Nicole's call last night too, and then of course I remembered the dreams after the fact. So there's 2 that kind of go similarities. They're short. This was before Nicole and you. I heard about you talked about writing dreams down. So this was like, I don't have a lot of details. It's kind of like off the cusp, but so in general, the first one was me. It was like me rushing to get to, I guess kind of an airplane, but it was like a very futuristic, like kind of jet meets submarine. Like it wasn't a generic airplane. And it was like the very like urgency, like you're almost missing your flight type thing, but like running to it. And then it wasn't a normal airplane inside. It was just kind of like almost like an army plane, I guess, like with like no seats or whatever. Then once I was there, and then we were going to different stops. I don't remember where. So that was the first one, kind of that's it. And then the second one was same type urgency where I was running like almost in like a subway station, but going down the escalator and then into like rushing in to try to get into, and everyone was rushing, trying to get into like a cement type city that was blocked, and like it was like the gates and you couldn't get in, and so it was like the urgency of trying to get in, everyone was trying to find a way to get in, and I was actually with my brother-in-law randomly, so yeah, so that, and then I don't remember if I got in or not. I think I might have woke up before, I don't know, but so that is kind of all that I remember.
Wow.
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Army guy, that one's for you.
Clearly. Okay, so you're rushing. So there's an urgency to get into this futuristic plane. So this is a plane that's in your future. The fact that it's a military plane, it's not a civilian one, indicates that this is, even though it's just making stops that you see, this is a spiritual warfare plane. You're going to be doing war in the heavenlies with this thing. Don't know how much you're going to do. You're going to make a couple stops, and obviously there's missions that you're doing at each stop. But the urgency is, kind of like there's an urgency to share the gospel. There's an urgency for whatever mission God's got for you. So when that futuristic plane comes along, jump on it. Don't hesitate, just go. Okay. Then you go. So we're going back to the planes, trains, and subways. So this is the airplane. So you got the air, the fighting the principalities and the powers of the air. So put on the full complement of the gospel armor every day. Armor up, because you're in war. You're in the fight. Urgency again to go down into the subway is kind of interesting. We had a couple elevators today, and the escalator and a helicopter. Well, escalator is a type of, goes up and down, but you're going down in this case. You're going down into the subway where you're going to find the detailed, the depths of meanings of things, I think. This is where you find the depths of God. I think it's Psalm says, deep calls to deep at the sound of your waterfall. And I think this is the depth of you crying out to the depth of God, and he's allowing you down there. The cement city type is some sort of cement city down there in the ground.
Yeah, like it was like the escalator was going to, like, instead of a subway being down there, it was like a big
city
that like almost not like heaven in the sense of like the gold and pearls gates, but it was like that like, because I was like, oh, am I not going to get into heaven? Like it was one of those where I'm like, that's the kind of urgency that I got, in the sense of like you couldn't get in, but it was like a big like cement city that everyone was trying to get in and nobody could, or only few could.
Yeah, it's interesting that it was cement and not stone or some other material.
So it didn't look like heaven. It didn't look anything like that. It was just that, like what I woke up thinking, but it wasn't indicative look wise.
I hear bunker, this is like a nuclear fallout shelter.
Yeah, that's more of what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like beware the coming apocalypse, be prepared. There's a lot of, there is apocalyptic language out there. We know Armageddon and all the ending is coming at some point. And like everything else in the Bible, there's an urgency to be prepared. If you knew when the thief was coming in the middle of the night, you'd be prepared. Mm-hmm. And so be prepared at all times. And it's interesting that you're with your brother-in-law. It's a semi-familial member that you're with.
Mm-hmm. And we're close, but we actually just moved from California, where my whole family is. Mm-hmm. My family, my husband and my 3 young kids just moved to Tennessee. So I don't know if that has any, and my family's back in California still.
Interesting.
So I don't know if that has anything of relevance, but.
Yeah. The fact that you're with your brother-in-law is kind of interesting.
I just think you're not without a partner in this, and it's somebody close, like a brother-in-law, or close like a brother. Do you have a brother by any chance?
Yeah, but we're not as close as my brother-in-law.
He's close. Your brother-in-law is close like a brother that your brother isn't. Got it. Okay. So I'd say, this is looking for there's going to be somebody like a brother who's going to come alongside you and run with you in your destiny, wherever you're going. And it looks like you're on the military side of things. The focusing on, I don't know if you have a bent at intercessory prayer or whether you're called as an intercessor, but it kind of seems like it's something like that. Don't know if that resonates with you, but John, what did you get out of this?
You.
Well, I think, going down represents getting down, as you said, to the foundation of things, the base of things, finding out what's really there. Obviously, the idea of the plane represents, I like what you said about futuristic or being in your future, but also the idea of seeing a further distance. But that was pretty much what I got. I think a lot of it was similar to what you got, Neil. So what do you feel like the actionable intelligence is?
Say that again.
What do you feel like the actionable intelligence is for Brooke?
I think it's you're going to be on a different path, a different destiny than you're already on right now, and it's going to be a rapid transition. It's in the future, but it doesn't say how futuristic it is because technology is changing rather rapidly. But it's figurative. It's a figurative futuristic plane, and it's futuristic yet it's still military. And those are we already have those. Just so you know, those things like what you described already exist.
Okay.
So you're going to be. I'm not saying you're going on any of these things, but it's your destiny is linked to the military, at least the church militant, and it's coming. It's sooner than you think. And that's what the urgency is about. All these things, this technology in the real life exists as it is right now. And so you can get on it, even though it seems like it's in the future. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Future is now. And you're going to get to the bottom. You're going to get to the depths of understanding about what your mission is. And you're going to have a partner in that who's like a brother. So find the brother and the mission will come close after that.
Would the brother-in-law be like could that be?
It's possible.
Because I have a husband. So would it be like that could indicate my husband, or would it be or would it be someone like my brother?
My thought is pray about it. Let God reveal who it is to you.
Okay.
Let him really speak to you on that one.
Okay.
Because it would be great if it was your husband.
Yeah.
But the question is, why did God use your brother-in-law as the symbol and not your husband?
Yeah. Interesting.
So you got to ask that question.
Okay.
Cool dream.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
You get any different actionable intelligence, John?
I think you're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you, Brooke, for sharing your dream with us. Appreciate it. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow.
I like the themes that we get a lot of times, the same kind of military vehicles.
We had sisters kidnappings. We had 2 of those.
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 elevator escalators, ride to the sky or whatever. 1 child trafficking.
Yeah. And now Lisa Cortez dream.
And now the Lisa Cortez dream.
All right. Thanks for getting me on.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for waiting.
And I concur with Dawn, the first one. Thank y'all so much for what you do, because so many people, you're helping people know what God's saying to them. So, Okay, you ready?
Yep.
My husband and I were in a bar type restaurant place. It was all African American. It was very crowded. I went outside to put some sand in a bucket for me and Tony. Tony's my husband. I went outside to put some sand in a bucket for me and Tony to sit on. I was baffled because it had candy in it. I finally made it back to the table, then the dream switched. We were in a school gym, and there were 3 white guys sitting on a bench. The leader was sitting in the middle with long blonde hair. He sprayed himself with something to cover up his bad smell, and he was planning on getting up and hitting us.
He sprayed himself with something to cover up what?
His bad smell.
His bad smell, and he was getting up
I knew he was planning on getting up to hit us.
to hit you. Okay. Interesting.
This
Well,
was
I
in
think-
2018.
2018?
Yeah.
So there's the bar, restaurant, and there's the gym. There's the African-American setting and the 3 white guys that are about to attack you setting. Yeah, this is really interesting. Did you get anything, Neil?
Well, it seems like things are backwards.
Mhm.
Or maybe perception-wise, it's backwards. You know, in the bar, you seem comfortable because you go outside to get a bucket to sit on back at the table. Just kind of curious why you sit on a bucket and not on a chair.
Of sand
Yeah,
that ended up having candy in it.
a bucket of sand with candy, which is sweet. You know, it's kind of a sweet place to be. Sweet place to be sitting. But yet you go to the gym, and people that are like you are trying to cover themselves up in more ways than one. You know, they look, you know, you think, oh, white guys, they're safe. Well, this guy is spraying himself with something to cover up not only his smell, but his intentions too. And so it's, yeah, to me, it just seems, the symbols seem backwards. And maybe that's where our attitude should be, is don't look at things at face value. That things are not always as they seem. That you may be safer in a place where you think you should be uncomfortable, but you're actually safer there than you really think you are, and safer than a place you would be amongst your own people. And I don't know how that fits into what you're doing in your life, but the bar is, you know, it's sometimes you think it's the rough kind of redneck place. It's a place where that's where fights happen when people get too drunk. The school gym is, well, it's for a younger crowd, and it's a place of what MacArthur called the fields of friendly strife. Yeah, that's where you play. That's where you play games. That's where you have friendly competition. But this guy's going to hit you, and that's unsportsmanlike. And I think that I think that it's just, as I said, it's backwards, and something to consider of matching your surroundings with what your initial impressions are.
Well, and I think it's backwards what a lot of stereotypes would be.
Right. That's what
you feel that way. Yeah. Not that you feel that way. Not that, frankly, most Americans feel that way. But those that choose to divide us say this is what the narrative is, and it's simply not the narrative. I mean, when I go out and walk around, and you know, there's a soul food place here in Waco that I absolutely love to go to. The service is excellent. The food is off the charts. It's one of my favorite restaurants, and I feel so at home there. And the owners are from Detroit, and of course I'm from Toledo, so it's like we're both down here in the middle of Texas. But it's interesting because what you said in the dream was you talked about the race of the people. You said African-American place in the first one and 3 white guys in the second one. And so what I'm wondering, if that was emphasized in your spirit, it could be that God is either opening your eyes or revealing something to you about race. You know, I don't know if race is a thing, if it's something that you've struggled with, if it's something that, you know, you've felt uncomfortable in certain situations, or you've wanted to develop an affinity for people in all situations. I'm not sure what it means to you, But I do feel like it's interesting that even though it was kind of a simple place, I see kind of like, like a backyard bar kind of a thing where people play, like sand volleyball, and you have like a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket of sand, and that's where you're going to sit. And that was a sweet place. Everybody left you alone. You could eat, you could party, you could do whatever you guys were there to do. And it was kind of a sweet atmosphere, even though it was kind of simple. There was more structure in a place like a gym because, you have bleachers, you have this and that. There's lines, there's parameters, there's things that are there. And typically you're there for a particular reason. And these guys are stinky and they smell and they're trying to cover it up. And you get the sense and the discernment that you're not safe in that place. And so I feel like God is challenging traditional stereotypes. And it could be that he's using you to challenge that in other people, or he's challenging that in your own life. And I love dreams like this because so often people are afraid to go there and talk about differences in color and race and sex and things like that when they do dream interpretation, because they want to be non-confrontagious. And I just love going there because God is bringing it. God will offend our minds and win our hearts. He'll do something that it's like, well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't see myself in this situation or that situation. And the next thing you are in a dream. And then it's just like, that's not what I would have thought, and I feel like a lot of times God, just like in a lot of places, the world's trying to divide us. God is trying to bring us together. Like I said, before we open up to other people, our people are Americans. Everybody that lives in this country are our people. It doesn't matter what they look like, what color they are, if they're 4 feet tall or if they're 10 feet tall. It doesn't matter. We can love all people and give people the benefit of the doubt and be in that situation. But sometimes it's just like I know people, unfortunately, a lot of people that have gotten more hurt in church than they have in like going to the bar, And so it's the idea of a place that we might assume because of our own stereotypes that we might be more comfortable in, might be a place where your discernment really needs to be up because people are spraying perfume and they're trying to hide things and things are not as they seem. Now, I think the race situation is kind of an in your face. It's almost offensive because it's in your face that, well, God, why are you talking about black versus white? And maybe I don't have a problem with this or that, or I don't have a problem in this area. But it causes like an irritant, like a splinter in your mind driving you mad, to quote the Matrix. And so you begin to think, if you don't have a problem with race relations at all, you're thinking, well, God, I'm good. I don't have a problem in this area. He may be like, that's why I brought it to you, because I might actually be talking about the church. Maybe you have a problem going down to the bar, and maybe you have a friend that's inviting you to go to the bar. Maybe you could do more ministry in a safer place at the bar than you could sitting in your home gym. You might be in more danger there. And so when you think of, and don't let this just apply to the black and the white, because black and white just simply means a juxtaposition of truth versus lies. That's what that stands for. I don't even know that this dream is about race for you at all, but I think it's about the idea of, what are you predisposed to feel comfortable and where are you predisposed to feel on edge? And it may be that as God is causing you to go to those places.
That's it.
Do you know what it is? What can you share what part of your life that is? Or?
Well, I think just making that final jump off that cliff, of just trusting him and just letting go. And I think that's because that's what it is. Just trusting him and letting go. And he does do that to me. He does he speaks to us in our language. He does that in your face stuff with me. He'll poke that one little thing. He'll give me a dream that I'm like, what on earth? But he does. He pokes that one little thing he's trying to address and get me to talk about, or whatever. So yeah. I'm gonna have to think specifically like where he's trying to. I mean, I know he's trying to get me to give up coffee right now, and that's like the main thing, and I have given it up. But Yeah, that comfort and the truth and lies thing. I think that's probably more accurate.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, cool. I think, and those dreams can challenge everybody. I mean, they can look at our own lives and think, is there somebody that I'm predisposed, whether it's because we have a more legalistic religious mindset and like, well, I don't know about those people. And any situation, no matter
Right.
what race, creed, color, religion, sex, age you are,
And
where in your mind the idea of those people comes up is probably an area we need to work on in our hearts.
and he has spoke. Yeah, I mean, all of this really speaks to me because I know just recently in church that I don't even remember what the sermon was, but it was something about racism, and there was something in me going, and he very quickly said, "Lisa, that's conviction. That is not. Don't do that. That's conviction." And so I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably a little bit of all of what y'all said. So
Well, cool. What a cool dream. Thanks
All
for
right.
sharing that with us.
Yeah, thanks
you.
for sharing, Lisa.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Wow.
All right. Joey Alexander.
Joey,
Gentlemen, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
fantastic.
Good. Just gonna give you the last part of the creepy dream. So,
All right.
so Damon and I, we were decorating for Christmas, and then we walked down a hallway in our house. There's a door. We open the door, and there's a priest there. Behind him is a display case that looks like an old storefront from like Gunsmoke or Bonanza, an old Western storefront. In the display case is a life-size mannequin or life-size doll, and her face is made out of porcelain and her eyes are super black. The priest has a really round face also, not a lot of hair, ruddy complexion. I can feel this doll staring at me. There's a presence in her. And I look at her and I say, "Stop staring at me." She raises her left hand and points at me. And the priest kind of real nervously laughs and says, "Oh, Margaret." And then I look at her again and I say, "No." And at this point, I noticed that the doorknob's shaking on the door. And I tell my husband that we need to leave now. And he's talking and won't listen to me. So I finally get his attention. We step back out of the door. I try to push it shut, and whatever's on the other side is trying to push it back open. Finally get it shut and locked. And then I wake up. And as I'm waking up, I hear 7 days equals 7 years. And I think, no, it's more like 7 weeks.
I hear go Fives.
Yes, go Pokes.
Her daughter plays softball and her number is 55. So we say go Fives.
Go Fives.
7 days equals 7 years, but it's more like 7 weeks.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Well, so you're decorating for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You go down this hall. There's this priest with this display case, this life-size kind of doll with a porcelain face, kind of a round face, hairless priest sitting there, looking at you. And you see that the doll is moving and looking at you, and you keep telling it to leave you alone. Or what do you say to the doll?
The first time I tell her to stop staring at me. And then she raises her hand and points at me, and I tell her no. Like really loud and commandingly, I guess is what my note said.
Is it her left hand?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have something, Neil?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the display case is the idea of it's being put on display. I believe the doll represents a demonic force. And believe it or not, there are demonic forces that can certainly habit things that aren't necessarily human. So if you didn't know that, the whole idea of dolls moving and all of that stuff, yeah, go look it up. Don't take my word for it. But
yeah, Chelsea's made me watch those movies.
The reason why are, you know, and I've had other people, I've had 4-year-old kids dream about the dolls that they've seen literally moving in real life in their rooms that they've had to throw out and burn. And, you know, so it represents some sort of demonic inhabitant. And the thing it's behind a glass display case, right? So it's being put on display for you to see, but it's literally what's behind the priest. So it's what is behind. A priest represents, particularly like a Catholic priest.
Mm-hmm.
So it represents, I believe in this case, it represents the spirit of religion. So behind the spirit of religion can be a demonic force that seems to have a pure porcelain face, but is really kind of twisted and is there to harass and annoy you. But it's being put on display so you can see it. And I believe part of what this is God is dealing with what's happening in the church. You're getting ready for Christmas, which is the idea of celebrating the birth of Christ. But God is revealing some of the things related to the legalistic and religious spirit that are forces behind it that are not, things aren't what they seem. There's even a whole lot about the stuff that we celebrate at Christmas that has no roots in Christianity at all. In fact, it has worshipped pagan gods and other holidays and things like that. If that comes as a surprise to anybody that's listening, there's tons of research that you can do to look it up. I'm certainly not saying don't celebrate Christmas. I'm saying understand what you're celebrating and why. But Christmas, you know, the holy days, as they are called, you know, Advent and all of that, particularly Advent, right, leading up to Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Lent is the spring. Okay, so the idea. It's been a long time since I've been Catholic, so
me too.
It's the idea of a holy season and a holy time, and you're creating the preparation to be able to celebrate, arguably, the birth of Jesus. So you go into this place, and here's this spirit of religion, but behind the spirit of religion is this creepy thing that wants to kind of wave at you and all of that stuff, and you rebuke it. And what happens after that?
The doorknob starts shaking, and I realized we need to get out of there. So we step back, and whatever's on the other side, the demonic presence is trying to push the door back open, and I'm trying to shove it shut. And then I finally get shut and locked.
So God is putting on display and letting something annoy you that is standing behind a spirit of religion. And he's also showing you something that may have some bit of access or is trying to gain access into your location. What you need to do is shut the door and lock it. It's a spiritual warfare warning dream. What I would do is look in the places that you wouldn't think. Don't just be like, well, you know, obviously, is there a spirit of addiction or this or that or any bad stuff? That's where people go. Is there witchcraft? It may not be that obvious. It's hiding behind a spirit of religion. So is there a spirit of accusation? Is there a spirit of gossip, of judgment? Is there anything at all that would have a porcelain face and seem to be like, oh, look at the beautiful doll, and it's really there to kind of annoy you? It's not going to kill you or take you out or anything, but it's also rattling at the door and trying to get in. And if so, shut those doors and lock those doors. Allow it no access. Give it no quarter. Allow it no presence in your domain at all. And again, please understand, a spiritual warfare dream doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean you've allowed anything into your space. It means God is putting on display the spirit behind the typical religious system. This could have to do with church because a priest is in it. It could have to do with somebody that you know that represents a level of spiritual authority. But the jingling door and there's a fight to try to enter. It's trying to gain access. If it gains access, especially if you open the door and let it in, it's a whole different ballgame. But God is letting you know, secure the borders, secure the barriers. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, another thing,
by the way.
What's that?
Do what?
I said, does that resonate with you? Do you know what it is that I'm? A lot of times when I say stuff like this, people will know right away. Oh, I think I know what that is, because God will just quicken, and not that we need to know. But if not, it may be something like the thing behind the door was hidden. So the thing behind the display case was on display. So I feel like there's two things, could be three things you're dealing with. The spirit of religion could be the priest. What's behind the spirit of religion could almost be like a Jezebel type of thing, right? And then there's something at the door that's hidden that you don't have any idea what it is, but it's trying to gain access.
The unholy trinity. The fact that the doll was pointing its left finger at you, it's the accusing finger. And the left hand is supposedly the hand of the devil. I'm left-handed, so I kind of take that as a compliment, I guess. I don't know. Is there anything that you can think of in your house? I mean, because this could be an actual physical object. The doll is in your house already in the dream. So it could be, it's possible, maybe not, but it's possible that there's an object in your house that is like a porcelain doll, but it's not a porcelain doll. Is there anything you can think of in your house that you always thought was kind of like, it's always kind of odd? Maybe it was a gift from somebody or something that you purchased when you were, years ago. That's just in the house, maybe hanging on a wall or in one of the back rooms or even in, storage cabinet somewhere. Does anything like that come to mind?
Not right off the top of my head. I mean, I went through 3 or 4 months ago and anointed the whole house. Actually went through the whole property because we just had some kind of weird things going on. So maybe I need to look in the attic.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It was down a hallway and in kind of a room. It sounded like when you were telling me, it sounded like it was a room that was not used very often. It was just in the back of the house, kind of not forgotten in a place that you don't go normally.
Mm-hmm.
I would look in those places.
Okay.
It may not be anything. It might be what John is talking about, that it's actually a spiritual, it is a spiritual piece, but I'm thinking that it's an actual physical object that something's attached to in your house.
Well, it could be like if somebody gave you like a cross or a statue of Mary or anything related to Catholicism or what would seem like a spiritual memento or artifact. It could be something.
Something like a dream catcher or something like that.
Or like whatever it is you just thought of.
Yeah, exactly. That thing.
It was my grandma's pearl rosary.
Margaret means pearl.
My mom gave that to me. Wow.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Where do you keep it?
It's actually in my jewelry box that I don't get into very often because I live on a farm. So
it's like a room.
It's like a room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bree heard rosary. She actually heard that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
There you go.
Very cool. So what about this 7 days equals 7 years? But no, it's more like 7 weeks.
It's kind of Joseph-esque. 7 bulls equals 7 years.
And then the 3 days. Seven days is obviously the number of completion for a week. Right. 52 weeks in a year, 5 + 2 is 7, which that thought never came to me before, but I think that's interesting. So I do feel like there's something, I feel like there's a time frame of something that you're dealing with or you're asking God about, and you're wondering if it's days or years, and he's saying weeks. And it might be the number 7 specifically, but 7 also represents the number of, it's God's number of God's perfection. So
completion.
Yeah. But if you get that, let me know if you find out what it is.
I will. I will. Just a really quick thing that just popped in my head though is, so Down syndrome is 3 copies of the 21st chromosome, which 3 times 7 is 21.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Natalie thinks you should play the Powerball. She said 777 jackpot.
Yeah.
So, but awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. What a cool dream.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Joe.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Yeah, that's
Took
awesome.
me like 3 hours to get back to sleep because I kept telling myself, it's from God. It's from God.
That's right.
But
Wow.
anyway. All right.
Cool.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joey. Take care. Wow.
Wow. Didn't see that coming.
No, right? Well, we got time for one more. I know we got people that have been waiting, some from last week, but let's take Jeannie. Or is it Jenna?
Gina.
Gina. I'm sorry.
It's Gina.
Gina.
I just wrote in the comments that right now, the time between Passover and Pentecost, God gave me a Deuteronomy a long time ago. It's count for yourself 7 weeks from the time you put the sickle to the grain. It was a time stamp. So it's the 50 days between Passover and Pentecost.
Well, that's interesting.
Referring to her 7 weeks. Yeah. He gave me that, and he gave me, at the same time, he just told me 2 things. And the second scripture was, I've given you a land flowing with milk and honey. So I do believe it's this year. I believe it's right now. So it's a timestamp for me, but anyway, maybe for her too. Hi, John. Hey, Neil. How are you?
Hey, good to see you.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to see you too. Trying to figure out which one I was going to give you. So I'm going to do the creek. I had a dream 2 weeks ago on a Saturday night that I was sitting on a couch in a house that I didn't know. I was couched in God.
You're cutting out real bad. Is that just me?
No, it's me too.
It's been doing it ever since. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'll try to hurry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So anyway, I'm sitting on a couch. The couch really don't have a lot of color to it, so that's I don't think that means anything. But I'm looking over my right shoulder, and there's like a porch, and I see a creek. And this creek is absolutely gorgeous. It's a really wide creek with a lot of rounded rocks up. As I'm looking to my right, so I can't see behind me. And in real life, I was going to get up and go to church, and I got up late. But in the dream, I also did the same thing. But I was like, "What time is it?" And I hear my husband in the kitchen, and he steps out and says, "It's 1 o'clock." And I'm like, "What?" I thought it was like 9 o'clock. And so I see my daughter. She's getting ready for church in a bedroom to the right of me. And I said, "Well, it's too late to go. What are you going to do?" And she said, "I'm going to the Y." So anyway, I go outside, and I'm standing at this creek, and I see this little boy, and he's fixing to dive in. And I'm like, no, because I think it's not deep enough. I'm afraid he's going to get hurt. And he dives in, perfectly fine, comes up, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. You're good." And he sort of smiles at me, and I look down at my feet, and I have a pair of white Keds on, and that's something I would never wear because they're narrow and my feet are wide. But anyway, I look down, and I think I need to jump over this little area that sort of, it just goes around. It's just a small little area of the creek, even though the creek's really wide. But I look down, and I'm like, I think I can make it. And I do. I jump, and I'm like, okay, I made it. And the thing about the dream is I was so excited in this dream about this creek. I absolutely was. It was just enthralling to me. I just loved it. And so I wake up, and I ask God, please let me dream about the creek again. This is in real life. And he does, like 2 nights later, I have a very short dream. I'm sitting at the head of this same creek. However, there's just a bank behind me. So in the other dream, it would have been to the right of me where I wasn't looking. But I'm sitting at the head of this creek in a chair, and I'm looking at it. And when I see it, I'm just jumping up and down for joy. I'm like, oh, there's my creek. There's my creek. I'm so happy that I'm sitting in the chair, and I look to my right, and there's a yellow washing machine. And God has used the color yellow for me and a couch in previous dreams where I met Jesus and God, but that's a really long dream. So that's it.
Wow. Sounds like a special forces orienteering run.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't use white Keds. They get too dirty, and they're not really good on the ankles. No, just kidding.
Yeah. It's just not a shoe that I would normally wear, but I had them on.
Interesting. You every way you look is to the right. You never look left throughout the whole dream. And creek. This is the second creek we've had tonight.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
So you're sitting on a couch in a house that's not yours. You don't recognize the house. Yeah. Okay. You're in
never been in it.
You're not in the place that you normally live. This is a different place, a different, unfamiliar.
Yeah, unfamiliar. Except at the same time, my youngest daughter was getting ready in a bedroom to my right. And a long time ago, when my oldest daughter, the house was set up the same way, and that was her bedroom. But in this dream, it was my youngest daughter, who's 19, and she was fixing her hair.
So,
and I could see her from where I was sitting.
Your husband's in the house too, right?
My husband, yeah, he was in the kitchen. My cat, one of my cats was laying in my lap too, but
I heard it. It came out of the dream, and it's been purring over there.
Oh, there's several of them purring, and they're not supposed to be in this part of the house, but I let them in so everybody be quiet.
Okay, so your daughter's preparing for church, but she's not going to church because it's too late.
Yeah, because it's too late.
She's going to the YMCA, which is a pseudo-Christian organization that's kind of pseudo-church-ish. So it's kind of like you get credit for going to church, but not really. Okay. So you're going. You look out over your right shoulder, out the window, and you see this gorgeous creek. Where do you live, by the way?
North Carolina. Foothills.
I was thinking the Round Rocks.
I will tell you right after that. I don't know if you've ever heard of Moravian Falls.
Sure have.
But God led me to look it up through. I was watching a prophet that I don't normally watch, but I had heard of him and I watched it, and they were talking about Moravian Falls, and I heard other people talk about Prayer Mountain, and I was like, oh, that's in North Carolina, and it's like an hour and a half from me, so I do have plans to go, but. This is like 2 days after my second dream. I looked it up, and I literally, the first picture was like, I said, oh my Lord, that's my creek. That's the creek I thought I was dreaming about. I'll start crying.
So now you've put a location.
So a couple days later, I think so. And I couldn't find that exact picture again after I looked for it. I found tons of other stuff, but that picture wasn't there when I tried to show my daughter. And I looked and could not find that exact picture.
I don't think you need to find it. You know where to go.
Yeah.
You don't need to see it again. God's already shown you where you're going. It'd be nice to find it again, but you know exactly where you got to go now.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting. So there's a boy that's next to the river. It is about to dive in, but you think you're kind of concerned for his safety that it's not gonna work because it's too shallow or whatever. But he dives in anyway, and he's perfectly fine. And he smiles up at you. Is that right? Kind of like
yeah, he smiles.
Aren't you proud of me? And you want to jump over the creek. And you actually do.
It's just this at the end of the house. There's this little. It goes round, so the creek's still really wide. But this one area that I'm gonna jump over it. Take a leap.
Take a leap of faith and go to Moravian Falls. Sorry, that's about all I got, John. But there's a lot more in this, I can tell.
Yeah, it's really good. I really I like the dream. I'm having a sound issue. Continue, Neil.
Oh, that's okay. That's all. I don't know my end, is it? Who knows around here?
It's
A lot of animals, but I'm hearing children.
No, it's not you this time. It's him. He's got Wi-Fi issues every once in a while. So, let's see. So this is a generational thing too, because your daughter's there and your husband's there. The kitchen kind of represents a place of preparation. So he's preparing something for you and the daughter, your daughter and the family. Possibly it's to either take a trip or to move, maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking it's more temporary. But this house that you're in is the temporary house that you've either visited, or I think you're going to visit this house or something like this house on the creek or in Moravian Falls. I think there's
and now they do have cabins, and I was looking to see if I could, because I know I could see the outside of the house looked like an older home that was weathered.
Get one with a nice metal roof so you can hear the angels falling.
They actually have a cabin called something angels. That has something to do with angels. They have a cabin.
I've been out there.
If John's sound comes back, we'll have him tell you the story about he's stayed there.
But wow, well, I think you're supposed to go to the creek and go to the falls. So sounds good. Let us check back in with us when you get back and let us know how it goes. There's some beautiful.
What do you think about the yellow washing machine, which God has used yellow in a dream before with me?
I feel like,
and it is a washing machine. So
there's a spirit of fear that God wants to rinse off of you. That's what I'm hearing. The idea of a spirit of fear. Spirit
pray
being.
what happened.
Could you hear him? Gina, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Neil.
He's saying that
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
The color yellow is God's telling you that he's got a spirit of fear that he needs to wash off of you. Does that resonate?
If there's anything that you're afraid of or anything that you're worried about, including your kids or your grandkids, I feel like this is part of it. Just like at the beginning at the creek, when your grandson was going to jump in the water and you weren't sure if he was going to get hurt or not. It's that idea. It's not really fear. It's more the idea of worry. That kind of a thing. And I feel like
I've been asking God to tell me what my purpose is right now, because the young boy I didn't know. I was a youth director, director for 10 years in the past, and I loved it. It was like best time of my life. And I don't know. I asked him constantly that's how I got that position, was he gave me a dream and said, yep, take that, because he answers answers me a lot in dreams and tells me things. But he said, in that dream, to take the position that they had offered to me, and it was a teaching, and I was on the youth board, but I ended up being the youth director for over 10 years. And I'm not at that church. I was there for 15 years. So.
Well, stay tuned. I feel like God has more. And so just continue to write your dreams down. And I feel like there's more coming on this. So,
especially when you get to Moravian Falls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jesus and God both came to me. And I know you've got to go, but briefly in a dream. And Jesus answered a question, because I was raised Pentecostal Holiness, been in church all my life. So when I hear people say when they got saved, I would always I don't know, been the altar every week for all my life. Felt like I've always known Jesus, but he did come to me and say, he said, he put his nose on my nose and said, do you smoke? And I said, no. He said, well, when I first met you, you smoked. That was a long time ago. And then God gave me a lot of directions, told me to name some items and write some things down, and some things were already written down. And he sent me to Jeremiah.
So much more he wants to share with you. So stay tuned and continue to write your dreams down, because I think he's got more on this. But thank you for sharing your dream with us, Gina.
Yeah, thanks, Gina.
Thank y'all.
All right.
Y'all.
Have
a good evening.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, thank you guys. Such a good dream talks, or I'm sorry, live dreams. Such a good live dreams. Thank you for being with us tonight, and we appreciate your time. And again, we'll see you back at the same time, same place next week. Have a good one.